Hello.
Hello.
What's wrong?
Nothing. I don't know.
Like
It's just how it came out.
so that you're on death's doorstep.
I don't know why it came out that way.
So I was thinking we could talk about listening. Because in our workshops we talk about listening
We do talk about
quite
listening.
a bit and how it's really helpful to listen without
With our ears.
with your ears, not with your nose, but to listen without a lot on your mind.
Yes.
And I was thinking that it's not just workshops, but in relationships, listening is really key for understanding each other and feeling close.
Yes. Yes.
You're going to say something else?
Well, no, I think that the real essence of this with listening, for me, is that it has to be really authentic. Because sometimes I think in the past, because I think this has been an issue between you and I around the subject of listening, because I think that I have a tendency to create the illusion of listening. And I think in the past when I've done that, it's probably more because I feel like I'm under a lot of pressure to listen. So it's kind of like there's been a few tools and skills that we've maybe been exposed to in the past by various workshops that we've been to that creates a sort of manufactured air to it that doesn't feel very authentic. So I think that the real key for me is to really see the value in showing up in a very authentic way that feels like I'm being present.
Yeah.
As opposed to pretending that I'm listening. And now I know that I have created the illusion of listening, and that's obviously contrived. But I can also show up and feel like, yeah, this doesn't feel very authentic. I'm listening, but I'm still not very present because I'm feeling some reaction to it. Does that make sense?
Reaction to what?
To having to be here and listen in the first place.
Oh, you're frustrated and irritated?
Well, yeah, that's been a feature of the past. I don't think I show up that way now, but I know that in the past, where we have got some maybe schooling, for want of a better way of looking at it, on how to show up in a relationship vis-a-vis listening, I think that it's felt a little bit contrived, and now I feel like it's different. I feel like I have a better understanding about what that looks like, about showing up and being present. And if I'm not feeling, or I've got something on my mind, I'll be better equipped now to say, yeah, look, I'd love to have a conversation with you, but at the moment I'm feeling a little bit sped up, and I think that might get in the way of me being present with you.
Yeah. Well, I think that was what I found hard in the past, is that you would tell me you were listening, I would know you weren't listening, and then you would try to prove to me that you were listening by being able to repeat exactly what I said, but even though you could do that, you still weren't listening to me.
Yeah,
like it didn't cut it.
That was quite a skill set. And then, although not that I'm holding that up in any kind of.
Did you learn that in a workshop?
I'm being ironic. I'm not holding that up as a positive trait, but I know that I have the capacity to do that. And it's funny because I have friends, and I have a relation. I don't want to name any names, who has this incredible capacity to just drift off when you're talking to them. And I find that quite insulting, or have found that quite insulting in the past. And in a sense, me trying to create the illusion of listening is so much more deceitful and ultimately much more insulting. Because at least with this person, they're actually like making no bones about it. I'm thinking about something else, and I'm holding that up for everybody to see. But I can be a bit more sneaky about it.
Well,
and even then, being sneaky about it, you would still see right through it. It's not like it's going to go anywhere, that's going to be particularly helpful in the end.
Yeah, well, I can feel if you're listening.
Yeah.
And it's only insulting if I make it insulting, if I take it personally.
That's true.
But I have taken it personally in the past. But now I think you do it a lot less.
Yeah.
And I think that if you were to do it, I'd probably take it less personally. But it is so helpful to really just have that capacity to have a quiet mind and listen. And it is simple, but it's not something that we tend to necessarily do all the time because we get sped up. And when I get sped up, I'm not really able to be present. And so I think it's really about having the ability to understand what state of mind I'm in to know whether I'm even able to listen to you.
Right. Well, I guess I think the rule of thumb is if I have a settled mind and I'm feeling happy, I am all ears. I'm automatically going to be present and feeling comfortable about engaging with you on that level. But if I'm stressed out and sped up, then the chances are that I'm not going to be able to show up. And I think that so many people feel like they have to show up because they're in a relationship. This person is talking to me. I need to respond to what they're saying. But I think it's very easy to create a habit around, I'll kind of give you my, not undivided attention, but I'll give you maybe 20% of my attention at this point in time. And that ultimately is not a comfortable way to interact with anyone. And people see right through it, but it's still nevertheless, I think, a feature. Maybe I could go as far as to say it's a feature of society. That certainly seems to crop up more and more as a crisis point in the couples work that we do, that people feel like their partner isn't present or they're not listening to them. But it's because they're not really giving their undivided attention and they feel like they have to. So we'll just, maybe give a small piece of my attention at this point in time.
Yeah, well, it sounds like when you did that, it was because you thought that you could get away with it and that it was better than saying, hey, I'm not available right now.
Yeah, I probably thought that it was maybe at the beginning more contentious to say I'm not available, that you might have been insulted by that in some way, I don't know. But ultimately you'd probably be a lot more triggered by the fact that I wasn't listening to you in the first place in a way that felt like I was present and engaged. And that's been a big learning for me. So I think I'm much better now at being able to recognize when I'm out of balance, out of whack, got something on my mind, and then realize that this isn't a good time to be really talking to my wife. Go ahead.
And recognizing that I have resilience, that even if I do take it personally, if you say you're not available, I'll get over it.
Yeah, that's a big one too.
That you can be honest, and if I get reactive, then I'll get unreactive at some point.
Yeah. And then speaking of not listening, I've got a good story about not listening. Can I share that now?
It's your blog too.
Years ago, I don't know if I had very great ambitions to go to university. I don't know why I thought I needed to go and have interviews with the various different universities that are out there. But I went through the motions of doing that, and I remember going to the University of Kent with a prospect, a very dim prospect of studying history, which I don't know why, because I was hopeless at history. But sitting down with this professor in his study and him asking me this very leading question about, I think it was something like the rise and fall of Nazi Germany and what kind of point of views I had about that. And then I remember crossing my right leg over my left, holding onto my ankle with my left hand and looking down at my shoe. And I guess it was kind of probably a stalling tactic. And then seeing that on the sole of my shoe was the biggest dog turd you've ever seen.
Oh my God.
Then finding myself in this really weird situation where I had to have a conversation with this man. And the stupid thing was I didn't even mention that is what had happened, despite the fact that everybody knew that this was the elephant in the room. It was glaringly obvious.
He could see it too.
I'm sure he could see it. He could certainly smell it. And then having this very artificial conversation where I hadn't got a clue what he was really asking me. I barely had a clue how I was responding. And it was just so absurd. But suffice to say, I don't feel like my powers of listening are that impaired with you as in comparison with that experience.
That would be the extreme. Did you get in?
No. But it was more about the fact that they gave me really hard grades to get in, and then my grades were preposterously bad.
All right. Well, have a great weekend, everybody. Hope you have a nice settled mind.
Bye.